Welcome to the National Briefing with me, Kelly Nash, and we love to talk about the truth. Call out lies, talk about the truth. It's interesting, though. I post snippets of this show on, YouTube Shorts, put it up on maybe Instagram stories, whatever. Wherever I post this stuff on social media, and I don't know, I can't believe the number of liberals that will watch it and then push back and say, I am lying. And I understand their perspective on certain things. Like yesterday, we were talking about how the shutdown is the Schumer shutdown. It's the Democrat shutdown. That every single time there's been a vote to keep the government open here in the last 3-4 weeks, it's always been all of the Republicans vote to open it. It has been passed in the House, and now we're just waiting on the Senate, and we just need a few more votes, but they have to be Democrat votes because all the Republicans are tapped out. We have no more Republicans. So it is a shutdown by Chuck Schumer and the left. And they want to call me a liar and say, no, Donald Trump has the power to open up the government and the Republicans have the power. And what they're basically saying is they could use the nuclear option. I understand that, but I am not lying about the fact that the Democrats, all but 3, have voted to keep the government shut down. Now, my interpretation of that is in order to use low-income mothers and the military as hostages. We're holding them hostage, and we're inflicting pain on them in the hopes that it will force the Republicans to then fund more of the $1.5 trillion for health care. I don't even think that that's a debatable issue, but if they want to debate on it, we can debate on whether that's the reason. But I'm not lying about the issue. However, they refuse to call out lies when their own party is telling them. And I put forth one of the great liars of all time. He's a great liar because he's not that he's clever, but he's just very smooth and slick, and he seems like he believes it. And he talks quickly. So people say, well, he couldn't just be making this up on the spot, could he? He's not that good. Yeah, he is that good. It's Gavin Newsome, and CNN has a brand new show that launched, I guess, was it last night? I lose track of, because I think it airs like at 10 or 11 o'clock on the West Coast. And so on East Coast time, we're already into the next day when they start airing it. His name is Alex Michelson, and his very first guest this week is Gavin Newsome. And Gavin Newsome is talking to him about what's next for Gavin Newsome.
I've got a book that I'm putting out next year, early next year, that I've been working on for 4 or 5 years because I can't take the perception of me versus the reality of what I experienced growing up.
What's the biggest misconception about you?
I think this notion of the silver spoon, I was born into great wealth and privilege, and it's quite the contrary. And it's remarkable how that perception has dominated so much of the conversation that even my friends have about me. They don't know much about me. And so just for the record, setting it straight for my kids and grandkids, I'm going to be pushing back in that respect.
Isn't that how we all learned about mom and dad, was when they finally put out a book so we could read about it? Are you freaking kidding me, dude? Your own children don't know about your childhood. And the group of friends that you have don't know anything about you. If you talk to me, if you were a friend of mine, you would probably know I can tell you real quickly. I grew up in East Hartford, Connecticut. I grew up in a lower middle class home. I went to a trade school rather than a traditional high school because my parents didn't want me to play football. That was the number one reason. And so they found a school there that didn't have a football team. So I played soccer, basketball, and baseball in high school. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, people's life stories, and you tell it to them. And then if they hear if I was to become a high profile personality on a national scene and there was some pundit talking about me and they said, well, Kelly Nash, he had it all growing up. He's from Connecticut after all, Greenwich and all that. I didn't grow up in Greenwich. I grew up outside of Hartford, in East Hartford, in the crappy side. West Hartford's the nice side. And my friends would already know that. But not Gavin Newsome. He's got to write a book about it. Okay, maybe he's lying, maybe he's not. But let's move on. Gavin Newsome tells Charlie Kirk about his son. Now, this is back when he was having a podcast. I don't think he still does it, does he? If he does, he probably doesn't have moderates on or people in the center or certainly people on the right. I remember when he had Charlie Kirk on, he was freaking destroyed by the left. They found it to be the most vile podcast of all time, particularly because he agreed with Charlie on the issue of should men be allowed to compete in women's sports. And he said, no, it's an issue of fairness. We need to do a better job of protecting women in our state. Oh, my gosh. Well, how's that been going? Hasn't really cleaned that up since then. But anyway, this is him talking to Charlie Kirk, telling him a story about his son.
The worst part, though, Charlie, no BS, true story. Literally last night, trying to put my son to bed. He's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is
you canceled school for like 2 years. One day.
The point is the point, which is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
But I know, but I appreciate that. I mean, it's the reason you're here, because I think people need to understand your success, your influence, what you've been up to, and the fact that you're on these college campus tours.
All right. My BS detector goes pretty high on when he's tucking his 13-year-old into bed, but I'm not going to judge. I mean, if that's the way it is in the Newsome household, that when teenagers go to bed, Dad comes in and makes sure that the sheets are soft. Okay, that's how you do it in your house. I'm not judging. I just find that not believable, but I'll let that slide. However, you go on, no BS is what you said, and said that your son does not want to go to school. He wants to do everything he can to meet Charlie Kirk. Okay. I did like Charlie Kirk's. Did you let him take the day off from school? Why not? You canceled school for 2 years. What's one more day? Anyway, Alix plays a clip of that, a shorter version of that, on his show, and then asks the governor about it.
So that's your son, obviously a fan of Charlie Kirk. What was the conversation like between you and your son after Charlie Kirk was assassinated?
Well, he called me. I don't know how he got a phone, but he called me from school that day, really alarmed. And all his friends were around the phone that wanted me to somehow express or understand what was going on. He wanted to know if he was dead. He wasn't a fan of him as much as he was familiar with him. And it was very revelatory for me, because he's sitting there talking to me about not just Charlie Kirk, but folks like Andrew Tate.
What a vile human being you are, Gavin Newsome. I mean, to mischaracterize your own son. If the first story is true, in which you prefaced with no BS, if that story is true, it's obvious that your son is a fan of Charlie Kirk. Okay? It's obvious. And for you to then recharacterize it as he's not a fan, he was familiar with him, that's disgusting. You're lying about your own child now. Then, to then just tie Charlie Kirk in with Andrew Tate, who I guess are both, they're popular with young men, both are, because both talk about masculinity and so on and so forth. They both had, Charlie Kirk and Andrew Tate were almost so opposite that it's almost like how Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, people can make comparisons to those two. You'll go so far around, and all of a sudden it's almost like we have something in common. Andrew Tate is known for his lifestyle with, jet flying, scantily clad women, boasting of how many, his cars and all that sort of stuff. Has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk's live a humble life, save your money, worship God with all your heart, soul, mind. I mean, monogamous. Charlie Kirk is a voice for the right. Andrew Tate is, I don't want to diminish Andrew Tate. I don't want to be in a battle with Andrew Tate. I don't think Andrew Tate would ever hear this podcast, but I'm not trying to attack Andrew Tate. But I think Andrew Tate would say he and Charlie Kirk would have very little in common. And for you to just compare those two flippantly, that's kind of like what you all do with Donald Trump and Mussolini, Donald Trump and Hitler, Donald Trump and wants to be Vladimir Putin. I mean, it's very disgusting the way you lie that these are obvious lies that people on the left, if you want to be taken serious by the American people, you should start calling out your own party when your own party is lying so egregiously right to the American people's face.